Thanks, Avi, and good day, everyone. Well, I hope my son feels the same when you say I'm the world's best dad. But you all know what this is. I'm pretty sure you have it on the big screen, and those of you in front could probably see what it is. And in case any of you are wondering, I'm not here to sell you pine cones, right? About 6 to 7 weeks ago, I was walking my son. I was walking my son Liam to his soccer game, right? And as we were walking, he, walks off the curb, goes to this little reserve that we have, and picks one of these. And he comes back to me and he says, "Hey, Dad, can you sell one of these for me?" Now, a prelude to this story is that about 2 weeks before this game, he comes up to me asking me if he can get an electric bicycle for Christmas. And me and my wife have been trying to instill in him the value of money. So we go back to him and we say, "Hey, you know what? You need to figure a way to do it yourself. So start saving and, make sure you get some money to, support your goal to get a bike." Anyways, back to the story. He goes to the game and he's all excited, although he lost that game. We got back home. He jumps online, and he tries to validate this idea of his. And the first thing he does is he comes back down and shows me this. Turns out there's a market for pine cones. So, I thought I would humor him because now he's all, he's had his eureka moment, and he's all out there to disrupt the pine cone industry. And he says, "Dad, you got to help me with this." I said, "Okay, time for some pro bono work." So I decided to help him. So I jump online, I do support him with that research, and it took about a week to, just bear with me, to set up his listing. So what I did was a pretty standard practice, trying to get his product retail ready, which is starting off by the account setup, making sure that I put down a really cool title, bullets, make sure all the keywords are optimized, pretty much everything you've heard from Casey and from Rishi before me. Take all of that insight, put it in there, and also optimize his images, right? So did all of that, and his listing was up. So somewhere around I believe it was the 1st of July is when I had his listing up. Great. Did that, handed it back to him, and I said, "You're on your own, mate." Takes about 10 days, and I was just curious to know how he's doing with his listing. So I go back to him and I say, "So what's going on?" And he's quite disappointed now because he says, "Well, I haven't had any sales yet. Yeah, there have been some numbers. People have been looking through my listing, but nothing's really happening." Now, I knew what was really going wrong, but I thought let him first go through that whole process of being disappointed before I can step in. The other opportunity I had was I knew Prime Day was just around the corner. So it was around the 10th of July is when I jumped in and I said, "You know what, Liam," that's my son's name, "I'm going to help you I'll invest in some advertising for you. But what that means is you got to do a lot more sessions mowing the lawn and also, unloading the dishwasher," which he agreed to. Not sure how much he's doing it, but he did. So I threw some money at advertising, again, using the same practices that we've just heard from quite a few of those on stage today. And before you know it, this is an actual representation of Campaign Manager. So we started on just before Prime Day, and in about 15 days, he's made $200. What that also does is it sort of reinforces my credibility because I do this for a living, right? And imagine me going to all my hundreds of sellers and saying, "Hey, you got to do this, you got to invest in ads, you got to leverage the power of discoverability," and I couldn't sell one pine cone. Well, he did, and this is just advertised revenue. Now, I did a bit of modeling with him, and it turns out if he goes on this trajectory and possibly adds like a 10% growth month on month, he's probably going to make a lot more to probably buy 2 electric bicycles, right? That's not it. I mean, the other significant bit, which is amazing, in just 15 days, is this. And you could do it while we speak here, while you're listening to me here, if you pull up your phones and type in pine cones on the amazon.com.au app, or natural pine cones, please don't buy any. If you see Talai store, I mean, unless you want pine cones, you'll see us right up there. So we are currently top in search in terms of impression share, not just on sponsored advertising, but also organically in just 10 days. And that, to me, was the single best thing that we've achieved through this whole process. And the question really is, what's the secret sauce then? Well, honestly, there is no secret sauce. This is it. It's following the process, which I've often told many sellers over the last 6 to 7 years that I've been doing this. You cannot jump the queue. You've got to follow the process. And the process is as simple as what you see on your screen, starting with having a retail-ready listing. And some of you out here would know what retail readiness is all about, starting with having a great set of images, videos, back in search terms, brand story, A+ content. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't brand registered, so he couldn't leverage any of those bits, but he did get the basics right, which is getting the right content, optimizing it, back in search terms, images, and then moving on to advertising. So using advertising, he was able to boost his discoverability in that short span of time, which resulted in more eyeballs, not just over Prime Day, but even after Prime Day. And more eyeballs obviously means, you use the law of probability there and say you're going to increase your conversions, which he did, as a result of which there were more sales. And more sales simply implies that you're going to be bumped up search rankings because you have a saleable product. It's as simple as that. So there is no secret sauce. This is the journey which most of you here would have experienced or will experience if you follow each of these steps. Now, it turns out that in selling pine cones, the easiest part is sourcing a pine cone. There's heaps of it in my backyard which you can pick. Now, mind you, when he picks them, there's a lot of work that is involved after it. And for now, he's employed both his mom and dad to do that, which is, and I did research this before I got into the pine cone business. You got to first wash them, and you can't wash them for too long because they sort of, curl up. You got to then bake them, get all the creepy crawlies out, blow them dry, and then making sure that once all of that is done, you got to box them. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of labor-intensive work, which I refuse to do without being paid for it. More importantly, I was paying for his dream. So he's now decided to pivot that, and he's looked at it saying, well, you know what, Dad, let's continue with this, and I'll keep funding my own advertising for now. But I'm going to gamify my whole idea, and I'm going to look at building an app. So Candy Crush, watch out, because he's here trying to build Pinecone Tycoon for you. Anyways, on that note, I think I've used an obscure example to validate what you can do with advertising towards leveraging the power of discoverability. But I have with me today, and I'm going to invite 3 amazing brands who've been using the same power of discoverability through advertising to make significant progress, both not just on their advertised sales, but also their organic sales. I would like to call Amanda, Vishal, and John on stage, please, to join me for a panel discussion. A round of applause. Thank you, and thank you for joining me on stage. I hope you found that story interesting. Before we begin, I'd just like to start with you, Vishal, and then move on to Amanda and John. If you could introduce yourself and tell us all a little bit about your company, your business, and how long have you been selling on Amazon?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Vishal. I'm founder and CEO of TimeTech Australia, which is trading as batterymite.com.au. We specialize in rechargeable batteries, chargers, wireless remotes, camping products, and gaming gears. I've been selling on Amazon since 2018 or early 2019. Like most other e-commerce businesses, we also started our business in a very small garage with just around 10 products. And today we have over 5,000 unique products in 2 of our warehouses in Western Sydney. And of course, we also store our products in Amazon's warehouses for FBA orders and for Prime members. And this year, in September 2023, we are also launching our own branded smart TVs, gaming monitors, and soundbars.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda? Oh, please. Yes, Amanda.
So my name's Amanda. So I'm the Regional Director for Zenus. I oversee our activities in Southeast Asia, Oceania, and also looking for new opportunities to launch our brand in Amazon stores globally. Our business, you probably haven't heard of us, but we are actually a manufacturer and seller of mattresses and beds in a box. We started our life as manufacturers of mattresses, selling to Sealy and other big brands in the US, and then decided about 15 years ago to sell direct to the consumer, and we chose Amazon in the US as that platform to do it. Since that time, we've really gone on to grow globally, so we sell on 13 stores globally, and we launched in Australia about 4 years ago.
Right, okay. John?
So I had a quick intro before, obviously, which is nice. So John Morgan, based in Perth, Western Australia. I'm the brand owner of Frontier Health, and we've got a small medical company, roughly sort of 10 or so products. And these are designed to be at home sort of monitoring for everyday people like you and I. And we've been selling for about 3 years on Amazon, and mainly FBA, of course. It's the better solution for us. It's less picking and packing, and just a simple solution.
Right. I'd like to start by a question to all of you, which I've been asked a lot of times. In terms of your approach to ads and to deals, coupons, what has your experience been, since you started, and how have you seen that evolve? Maybe I can start with you, John, on this one.
Yeah, look, I mean, we started with any new sellers, we always recommend to go with a sponsored product auto campaign, and that will give you really good performance. You'll have Amazon sort of guiding you in terms of like finding the customers, directing it to your traffic to that detail page, and then grow out to get sort of more in depth and sort of go to phrase match, broad match, and exact match campaigns. That will give you a sort of a better, I guess, a level of efficiency and spin on your ads, and then sort of go out to sponsored brands if you're brand registered, and then try and drive video traffic. We find video traffic one of the best converters out of any type of ad group that's available on the Amazon platform, and from there, just see what you can do with Amazon. But just don't be afraid. Spend money to try and drive traffic, do some A/B testing, and just try and get out there and get visible. Visibility is the number one key to build a brand and to build a business. That's what we recommend.
Right. Thank you. What about you, Amanda?
So I guess we've been on Amazon Australia for about 4 years. So when we started, we launched with sponsored product ads, similar program, and we really went down the manual ads process to see what keywords people were searching in Australia. And then we, over the last 4 years, have really advanced into using a wide range of ads. So depending on that product life cycle and what stage we're at, if we launch a product, of course we'll do CPC ads until we build up the reviews. And then once it's got some reviews, we'll start to do sponsored brand ads and really those video ads to help improve conversion more on those listings.
Right. Thank you. Vishal, has your experience been any different? Have you seen that evolve?
Yeah, it has been similar to the other panelists here. So we started our advertisement campaign back in 2018. It was just a very simple campaign where we will add every single product from the store in one campaign. It was doing all right. It was like that until 2022 when we decided to have separate campaign for every single category of the product that we were selling. We created a wholesome Amazon advertisement strategy where at the top of the funnel, we will have our brand promoted, which will also create a recall value. At the bottom of the funnel, we'll have highly targeted products targeting high potential consumers, display advertisements, which also targets customers that are off the Amazon, and other Amazon advertisement format like video ads. And it's very easy nowadays to get videos created. You can get like nice UGC content or a nice video ad created for a very reasonable price online nowadays. So we invested a little bit of money there as well. So this wholesome advertisement campaign has nearly tripled our sale on Amazon in just around 6 to 7 months period. So that has how our experience evolved.
Geez, that's amazing. Maybe I'll start with you, Amanda, specifically with ads and deals and coupons. You know, these days you've seen lots and lots of sellers taking, you know, key event dates a lot more seriously and, you know, prepping for them well in advance. What has your approach been in the recent past with key event dates, and how have you approached ads, deals, and coupons there?
So I'll probably give the example of Prime Day. So for Prime Day, we actually utilise your business's assistance to help build a really strong campaign. And we started prospecting about a week or so beforehand, and we really went that top of funnel brand awareness, driving people through to our products. And then during the 2 days of Prime Day, we did a lot of retargeting with those coupons and deals to drive consumers back to our products and help with conversion. We also did a lot of sponsored brand ads and videos to help build conviction for our brand as well. So it was that whole combination that helped create a really good click-through and conversion rate for our products.
Just a follow-up question to that. When you speak of retargeting, is there like a sweet spot on when you should be doing it, like a couple of days before, during, after?
So the retargeting that we did, well, the coupons launched, depends on what sort of coupon we were doing. We did some of our own, and then we did some with Amazon on Lightning deals. And so we would do it a couple of days beforehand, and then we'd find that they would often wait right until Prime Day, though, to make the purchase.
Right, okay, that makes sense. John, what is your experience?
Yeah, look, I mean, for all the deal events, especially Prime Day being the biggest one, but, you know, your Black Friday, Cyber Mondays, always take the time to have a bit of a plan ahead. So we try to increase budgets over that time. So let's just say you've got a $10 per day campaign budget. I'd increase that to $50 per day just automatically, or even more if you have to. That's just going to drive that customer awareness before the big day comes. So you'll get people who aren't necessarily going to shop and buy your product right now, but what you'll do is you'll build customers who might add it to the cart, add it to their favourites wish list, and those people will buy it on the day. So you're spending a bit of cash before the Prime Day deal or the big event deal, but end of the day, you're going to have a bigger sales day because you're going to actually have that exposure out there and get people to see your product before it comes to that event deal day. So that's really important from our point of view.
Right. Look, I thought I would go into something a lot more contextual to each of your businesses on the Amazon store. And I know you've been kind enough to offer a screen grab or a sneak peek into the campaign manager. So I thought I would start with Vishal. And what you see on the big screen is a representation of TimeTech trading as Battery Mates sales, advertising dashboard, the campaign manager over the last 6 months. And the one thing that stands out when you look at that is that yellow line. You know, it's very assuring to see that yellow line, which is sales, advertising sales going northbound. And I think the question for you specifically, Vishal, is looking at that graph there, what is that one piece of advice you would offer to all of us here today when we're sort of starting out with ads, or even if you're mature sellers, how do we capitalize on that power of discoverability?
Yeah, so one piece of advice that I will give to all the sellers is, regardless whether you are a big company or a smaller seller, when you are launching new products, one thing that we all struggle with is coming in front of the customers, being on the front page. So Amazon advertisement solves that problem for us, and just as a byproduct of the growth that you are seeing, we were able to sell so many products, and we were able to gather so many 5-star, 4-star, 4.5-star reviews. So when we launched our store on Amazon Europe and Amazon Northern America, we immediately were able to carry all this positive feedback to completely new market where nobody knew what Battery Mart is, what TimeTech is. But because we had this credibility built in Australia, we were able to see phenomenal results in those markets as well.
Right. I only hope my son doesn't see this graph because he's probably going to drop out of uni immediately. So thank you. And maybe moving on to John. And again, in your case, very similar results, a very strong first half of the year. In your case, if I highlight that yellow line, which in this case is the ACOS, I mean, you obviously had significant growth in sales in July. What we've often seen is with key event dates, the one thing that is very hard to control is ACOS, especially when it comes to new product launches or with key event dates. But I've noticed you managed to keep that ACOS in check, and it's about 20%, which is pretty amazing. So how have you been able to do that?
Look, we sort of, once a week we go through and look at all the top products we've got, the top campaigns, and then really focus on the the big keywords, the keywords that drive a lot of traffic, not the long-tailed ones or the ones that drive minimal traffic, but the ones that sort of drive the most traffic to your product detail pages, and go through adjusted bids to be, I guess, to perform properly. You don't want to be overbidding, underbidding. You want to make sure that you stay consistent and visible the whole entire time. And just making sure that you negate keywords that just don't work at all. If you've got keywords that you've brought into your campaigns, they drive ad costs through the roof, just get rid of them all altogether. We tend to keep them for about 3 months. If they don't work, we just drop them and we never use them again. Or the other strategy is you can just reduce the bid to almost nothing, just don't be visible for it, and then maybe once your product's gone through like a launch phase, then maybe try and bring it back on to see if there's any traction or any sort of visibility. But if it doesn't work, just get rid of it and just make sure you save your budget for things that do work. That's our advice.
Right. I do have one last question, and that's for Amanda. In your case, I've taken a screen grab of your campaign manager, and the one thing that stood out for me is, of course, you've had a really strong first half of the year, but if I look at impressions and clicks in July, you've had a substantial amount of clicks then. Now, it's not unusual, as most of you would know, to have that amount of clicks or impressions in July, as one of the drivers is Prime Day. What is unusual is the click-through rate, because when it comes to serving ads, you don't necessarily resonate that same ad with such a large number of traffic or number of eyeballs, I would say. In your case, you managed to do just that. So if you look at that green line, which is your click-through rate, yeah, that has sort of been, it has increased, although your impressions and clicked have also increased. So how have you managed to do that?
So it's definitely through that combination. So yes, we invested a lot more money in our advertising, but we did it through utilising pretty much every type of ad you could do at that particular time. But having the video ads helped with our product ads because people could see the animation and they could, I guess, understand what our beds do and how easy they are to assemble, and then that would help with our product ads. So our sponsored brand ads would show products that have thousands of reviews on it. So that, again, that combination really worked together to hold that click-through rate really high. I think if we just did one in isolation, we probably wouldn't get that same click-through rate.
Right. John, there was one question that I missed out on your graph. I noticed in June, which I'm sure some of you would have had as a question, there was a bit of a dip in sales there. I mean, considering you were investing so much in advertising, what happened in June?
That was a logistics issue. So we had stock being held offshore, and then it was sent to the wrong port in Australia, which then sort of channeled that back to Amazon. It was just an absolute nightmare. But that's just a seller sort of issue that you'll run into from time to time.
You live and learn.
Live and learn.
That's it. Yeah, well, look, in summary, what I would say is, firstly, thank you all for joining me on stage today and sharing such actionable insight. I really think, as a takeaway, there are two things I would probably do personally when I listen to each of you. One is, it's never a one-size-fits-all. Especially with advertising, you have to have a philosophy of test and learn, no matter how new or a mature seller you are. And to me, that is the single most important aspect of growing your advertising sales. I mean, not being scared if the ACoS sort of bumps up a bit, but keep investing in your ads, introducing different ad types, introducing great content, and that to me is certainly going to see you probably resonate some or reflect some of that growth that each of you have been seeing. On that note, I'd like to thank each of you for your time today. We're all going to be available outside. If you have any questions for any of us, please reach out to us. Thank you all for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Cool. Thank you.